me and Jenny Maxwell. You know Jenny, she's been here quite a while and continues to blossom as we talk. And today we were just talking about all the rampant anxiety, depression, frustration. And I think that the topic can surround itself around breakthrough, whatever that breakthrough is, is the breakthrough what's stopping you, and then to take that and break through what's stopping you going forward as far as professionally or on LinkedIn or whatever your direction is. With that, Jenny, say hello. Tell everybody how you've been since we talked to you last, and what's your latest insights?
Well, it's great to be back, Don. I love our chats. Good morning to Alex. How lovely that he's saying good morning to both of us. I'm excited to be here. We have like a storm going on in the background, and I always feel like a storm is like clearing the clutter. It's this energy. It's like blowing off the cobwebs and making way for something new, which for me I'm living in hope that spring is on the way sooner rather than later over here. But you mentioned something about, this breakthrough moment. But really what's important to notice is the breakdown moment first, because breakdown often happens right before breakthrough. And I see this a lot with clients, Don, where we're at like week 5 or week 6 and everything seems to be going well, and then suddenly sabotage shows up. And it's like their critter brain goes, no, this is almost like it's too good. I don't know what to do with you from this place you're changing. Let's just get back into old habits and let's just keep you where you are. And it can feel so frustrating I went through this myself I mentioned to you earlier, like I was my first client in my training. And those breakdown moments where you feel like this isn't even working, it's an opportunity to really focus on what exactly is keeping you stuck when you're at your lowest point. In any circumstance in your life, you've just hit a low point where you've just had enough of whatever it is. And the breakthrough comes right out of that breakdown. At least that has been in my experience, Dan. There's a load of people saying hello here.
Oh, yeah. It's nice to get a hello when you start. That's always a good way to start. We've got child support. Good evening from Uganda. Well, this message that we have and this platform that we are fortunate to be on has no borders, and at the end of the day, everybody's somebody and everybody's everybody, right? So if you treat people like an equal with respect, your message has an opportunity to ripple, to make a huge difference in a lot of lives. And that's the primary benefit. Dr. Marilyn's here. I've been working with Dr. Marilyn for about 3 years now, and she's just a lovely lady. But really what's so significant about Dr. Marilyn is how supportive she is of so many other people, because she posts once in a while, a couple times a week maybe, but she's always sharing and helping others. So thank you for being here, Dr. Marilyn. Appreciate it. And to your point, Jenny, it's really heal yourself first, right? Take care of yourself, because then you'll be stronger and strong enough to help other people help themselves. And that's really the key is people helping other people help other people. And it just takes a little bit to get it going. And I think this program kind of continues to message people that over time, it starts to get more comfortable to hear it, right? Because some people don't want to hear the message because they know it's right and they know they should do it. So by avoiding it, almost, puts it off to the side. What's your thoughts, Jenny?
Well, I think it's interesting. It doesn't always mean you're having to do something to help somebody else either. What if you taking care of yourself and stepping into a happier, healthier version of yourself, you're actually leading by example, and that helps another person. You don't actually have to do anything other than take care of yourself first. And it has that ripple effect that you speak of, because when you're around other people, they're getting the A version of you. They're not getting a stressed out, burnt out B, C, or D version. They're getting the A version. Your family, your friends, your loved ones, the person in the coffee shop that you're buying your coffee from, everybody is feeling your energy, and you're operating at a higher frequency and a higher vibe, and therefore you're leading by example. And people who are close to you might be curious, I wonder what they're doing differently. Or they'll say, I can't quite put my finger on it, but you seem different. What are you doing that's different? And at that point, you can share, you know what? I started bumping myself to the top of the priority list. I started being intentional about moving my body. I started really focusing on food that fuels me. I started to have a healthy no practice. I would say no to one thing so that I could say yes to something for myself that's moving me towards my goals instead of farther away from them. And this person might be completely inspired by this. Oh my gosh, I'm a people pleaser. I don't know how to say no. Hey, listen, I understand. It can be tricky when this is a new habit, but start by looking at your calendar and ask yourself, what's one thing I would like to eliminate this week that might really allow me time to focus on myself, do some mindful breathing, get out for a walk, go meet a friend that's not going to be a drain, whatever the case may be. That's leading by example. And that is so powerful. You're not diving in trying to fix something for somebody else, because nobody's broken and nobody needs fixing. You're simply being yourself and bringing your A game. And that inspires others to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, so well said. And I think other elements that could go to helping people. And Christy's here. Thank you so much, Christy Howard. She's somebody you should really reach out and connect with. It's about realizing you have the power for yourself, for your happiness, and that's so true. And the other thing is, so many people think something's a major situation when it's really not, right? So if you can frame it in a way that, not giving advice, but sharing experience. I know how you feel. I felt the same way, right? And then I discovered this, or, you're not alone. And I think what this shows is everybody is pretty much dealing with the same things at different times and different intensities. And everybody has a little piece of the puzzle on what helped them, like you were mentioning your notebook, right? And
Earlier.
Yeah, and maybe share that with everybody.
So it was interesting when I started my training as a coach, especially in the mastery program. They said, go and buy like a new notebook for all of your lessons. But on the very back page, we had to write the title Run and Hide. And anything that came up through our lessons that made us feel uncomfortable, or we felt like any resistance towards, that had to go on the back page, the Run and Hide page, because that was essentially shining a light in the dark spots, of what was keeping us stuck, what was keeping me stuck. And that feels really scary, because you're like, I don't want to go there. That's going to be really challenging. Well, what if the opposite of that was true? What if living with this habit or this belief or this routine that you're stuck in at the moment, what if that's the hard part? And by addressing it and creating new habits around new behaviors, that actually will set you free. So that Run and Hide page ended up being really valuable. And as a coach, I'm not drawing out people's pain points. I'm not, that I think that's very scary to people. You're just going to try and find out what's wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. But if these habits are no longer serving you, if you're curious about updating them and updating your belief system, and restoring your self-worth, because that's another big thing. It's like a lot of people don't feel worthy of this change, of having a greater experience. And you are worthy of it. But shining a light in the dark will ultimately set you free. And something you mentioned a few minutes ago about, saying to somebody else, like, I know how you feel. Well, I would argue that no, we don't. Because our experience of something, whether it's a similar situation, we're never going to have the same experience as somebody else having that. We're never going to have the same feeling as another person might have. But what we can do is, if we're noticing ourselves catastrophizing whatever that's going on, we tend to dress rehearse the worst case scenario, and we use like, what if this happens, and it's all in the negative. We talked about this before, Don, we can actually slow down and put it on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being burnt toast and 10 being death. In any given situation, if you can zoom out for a moment and ask yourself, how bad is this really? If I'm investing all this energy, this negative energy, this feeling of worry and anxiety, it's feeding my anxiety here, feeding how I feel in a negative way. If I can zoom out and look at a big picture, how bad is this really? What you might discover is that it's not actually as bad as you thought by simply hitting the pause button.
Yeah, and to your point, a lot of people don't have the support group they could really use or benefit from. And, association and disassociation is so important, because in a lot of ways, if you're not feeling good, it's not because you choose not to feel good. It's just the way you are. And sometimes you got to look back, and we talked about this yesterday, is where did this come from?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Where did these habits form?
Yeah,
Let's go back to the source.
Yeah, who told me this, and who did I believe? And when you're young, you look up to bigger and older people as people who know something, and you tend to take their advice at face value without investigating, and that becomes an intricate part of you, good or bad, depending on encouragement or discouragement. People telling you you're better than you think you are versus worse. Linda's here. This is a great idea for any age to have a place to write feelings on, a run and hide page, cause writing it, making it real, and able to deal with it. Everything is a beginning, if you allow it to be. And today could be the beginning. Andrea's here. If you don't know Andrea, she's just amazing. She's out in the Netherlands, and she's got a fabulous story, and has been on the show. Christy's here. People live in the fear. And you are correct. We never know how someone else is feeling, yet you can be an active listener and be empathetic to them. And I think empathy is so key, right? Is people knowing that they're safe, that you're sincerely interested in their welfare, and that you're there for them. And that's 3 big things most people could really use on their recovery. To them, support, to assist them to go through the fear that is not allowing them to shine. Well, every fear you confront makes it easier to confront the next fear, right? Because you gain mastery to a certain point. And more importantly, activity does a lot, no matter what you do, whether it's exercise, whether just getting up, getting out, doing something. And the other thing I'm learning from so many people is sometimes you got to involve yourself in something bigger than yourself. To
Absolutely.
So you're an authority on that. So why don't you share?
No, I'm not an authority. It's that's what changed everything for me, is that if you can just get out of your own way and get outside of yourself, whatever you're feeling, and get off your map and onto somebody else's, right? What's going on for this person right here? For me, it was through giving my time over to community service, helping non-for-profits, doing fundraisers, like being in the kitchen at Fox Valley Food for Health and chopping vegetables for meals that were going to be prepared for families who had a loved one recovering from an illness or coming towards the end of their life. And it really gave me perspective. Like, how bad is it really for me? Gosh, I'm healthy. I have a roof over my head. There's nobody in my family sick. How bad is this really for me? What would I like to experience instead of feeling sorry for myself? Like, and I say that with honesty, I was feeling super sorry for myself. And I sat in that comfort zone and blamed everybody else, and it really wasn't until I stepped out of that and got out of my own way and realized that, we've got one shot at all of this. What would I like instead? Well, I'd like to rediscover and reconnect with joy, rediscover who I am, what my purpose is, And it's okay to start. To your point, just start.
Mhm.
Start somewhere. Start with an idea. Dream about it, investigate it, take time and Google what are my options, or talk to other people who have experienced something similar to you. So I went and I chatted with other coaches and I asked about coaching. And it changed my life. So change is possible. You get to decide, though. You get to choose, you get to decide. Do I want to stay where I am? Or am I curious about what's possible in my future? What's it going to take? What's it going to take is saying yes to yourself, right? That's basically it.
Yes, and I think your point really accentuates perspective, right? If all you're looking at is up and more and bigger and better, instead of looking where you came from or where other people are, to really understand that everything can be taken away instantly without it just can blindside you, right? So having possessions or having status isn't long lasting as much as having self-worth, confidence, enjoyment, and looking at the littlest things. Like I tell everybody, when things get the worst it can possibly be, breathing is where you want to go to, right? Just remember to breathe. Remember to eat, even if you don't feel like it. And here's one thing that I learned, and everybody has their ups and downs, is there are people who love you, people who rely on you, that your happiness makes them happy and their happiness makes you happy. So sometimes you got to get happier, right? Just to be happier around the people you care about, because everything you give, you get back in one way, shape, or form, I believe. And I think what Jenny was saying, which was so important earlier, is how you project is what's reflected back to you, right?
You want to be the energy you wish to attract.
Yeah, I'm saying if you go in with enthusiasm and excitement and happiness, right, that other person is going to move to that level. I remember in the retail, whenever I had an irate customer and they'd get the screaming, I realized that if I start whispering, they naturally would have to come down.
Yeah, I was just going to say that too.
Yeah, if I matched them or tried to beat them, they would try to take my energy and throw it right back the other way. But when you're whispering, they almost have to listen. And the difference between thinking how you thought to someone who whispered modulates things. Right? And you can use that in anything. So Ambimbola has been here every day. She's from Nigeria. We had a great discussion with her and Andrea yesterday because Andrea lived in Nigeria. And it's so cool. And the essence of the conversation was Andrea and Ambimbola said, this country where a lot of people don't have much was one of the happiest places to be with some of the happiest people to be with, right? So it had nothing to do with possessions. It probably had the same thing to do with family, with having fun. Christy says, when we pay it forward, it does give us perspective on our life and allows us to really help others to get outside of our own box of darkness. Right. And these are people who have experienced it and are sharing it. It's not just philosophy or a vision of maybe. This is real time, real life with real people sharing real opportunities. I can resonate with Jenny. Well, it's so cool how people match up. We were just talking. I love socializing. A sitting home can get you down. Dean is here. Dean's been here almost every day. Very loving guy, always has some great sayings and encouragement. We've got another gentleman who's into poetry and everything he says rhymes. And what's cool, it's like a little mosaic that everybody brings their little gem and places it where they think it needs to be, but collectively it becomes unique and beautiful by bringing people together. And everybody who brings a little piece could make a big difference. Andrea, is saying, well, first we get Alex breaking through thank you for all your support. Anything we can do makes the whole show worthwhile. Even if it's one person that says, this is going to make me do something I've been planning on doing, but decided this is the day to do it. And Nike had it right, because with 3 words, it addresses everything. Just do it.
Yeah.
More doing, less thinking, less worrying. And the more you do, the more you experience what it is, not what you think it is or what you're afraid it could be. And what you have to understand too is as afraid as you are, the person next to you is probably just as afraid in the same situation with you, right? You're not alone. You're not, it's just the way it is. Andrea sending love to Alex. That's great. Never enough love. That's for sure. When you got a core group of people who really come here, I mean, I can tell you 70, 80% of these people are here every day. And I've seen people who initially said, boy, I'm so busy, that 2 weeks later saying, I blocked out this time every day. It's better than coffee for me. It gives me the boost. And you have your own friends here, right? And Andrea says the beauty of sharing love. I don't know what's more beautiful than sharing love. Linda Coleman says, has been always a blessing to share hearts and souls from everywhere to help us all grow to be a community. We all bleed the same and yet can help each other on the journey.
Well, that's something that I think that was a mistake that I certainly made. And I think a lot of people fall into this trap of believing that they're the only one with this worry, or they're the only one with this issue. And when you think you're the only one, you feel so alone. And by sharing your journey and sharing your story, you have the power to help somebody else on the other side feel less alone. And they go, oh my gosh, that's me. That was me. That was true for me. And then they might be curious, well, what did you do to change things? And you share that piece of the puzzle. And we're helping one another along by leading by example and sharing our story. So, if you're thinking you're alone with your problems, anybody that's listening, the likelihood is you're not. There's countless people that have had the same experiences or are going through something similar. And that's the beautiful thing, is that you're not alone.
Well, and the other side of it is you can help other people who are going through different situations, right? So you get the benefit of being helped, and then you get the benefit of returning the favor. And the nice thing about this show is every day, right? If you have an issue, there's a place where people like this congregate every day to support each other, where if it's once a month, well, what do I do for the other 30 days? And, there's something to consistency and routine. It's hard to break old habits and it's hard to establish new habits, but you do it by doing it more often and doing a little bit better every day. And pretty soon it becomes a puzzle, because once you see some daylight, you see hope. If you're in the dark and you see a crack of light, it's going to draw you to it. And hopefully if it continues to expand, it continues to magnetize you towards it. Linda has another. Yes, having to share, has made it better for others, and they don't have to be alone. Appreciate now starting this conversation for more to join and be that person for someone else. And, your true self shows up. And that's why I always tell people, this is not a place for business at this point. It's not a point to be salesy. If people love what you hear and who you are, they'll get in touch with you, or you can get in touch with them afterwards. But, too many people are looking out for something for themselves first.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And the truth is, like we talked about this even before we went live, is there's no easy button when it comes to inner game work. We are playing the long game when it comes to our mental and physical health. And that's okay. Because when you, again, zoom out and consider like how worthy you are of something greater, isn't it a gift to have this time to explore what's possible for you Explore the best habits that might really serve you by letting go of these old ones that no longer serve you. It's going to take a minute, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
See time as a gift, folks, you know, and I love that you highlight that. Nobody's on here selling anything that somebody doesn't want or need. It's so much better to share your story and allow a person time. I kind of think of it like a coffee filter. Sometimes we need the idea to percolate. So for me, it was 8 years, Dan, before I decided I wanted to become a coach. 8 years. Do I have any regrets? No. People were like, oh my gosh, don't you wish you started this sooner? No, it happened at exactly the right time when I was ready. You know, so when people are listening and they're considering, well, is this something that might be for me? Do it on your own time. Do it on your own time. Explore. And when you're ready, the time will be right. You'll know when you're ready.
Well, and I think that's so important because it's almost like when people get lost, they speed up instead of slow down, you know, and at a certain point, time can be your friend. And what I tell everybody, whatever happened to you, good or bad, made you who you are right now, right? And if it wasn't for that bad situation, there's a difference between short-term pain and long-term gain, right? Everybody's trying to avoid any pain they can, right? And no one hopefully attracts it. But the question becomes, how do you react to it? And an answer should be, what am I learning from this? What is this making me feel that I wouldn't have felt without it? And the other big thing that's huge for most people is learn how to respond, not react.
Yeah.
Right? Too many people say something and it triggers something, and then you say something back. And you know, if you would have had just 10 more minutes to ponder it, you would have been maybe a little diplomatic, or say, the last thing this person needs is what they just gave me, right? If what they just gave me was so hurtful, now I'm coming back with my weapon, right? And giving them a piece of my whatever I feel. You know, again, what always comes to mind is Mario's story. You know, he's in France, Marseille, and he went into that grocery store, and he called it a trolley. You know, he went to get his trolley, and there was a guy who was having a hard time and was screaming at him that was his trolley. And Mario says there's 70 other trolleys here, you know? And anyways, Mario said, I looked at him, I knew he was having a hard day. And you know what I did? I went up to him and I said, would you like a hug? And I hugged him, and he hugged me. And he said, go ahead, take the trolley. And I took the trolley, and like 5 minutes later, he caught up to me in the grocery store. And so I just want to tell you, I wasn't, you know, I wasn't myself. Thank you. I appreciate it. Now, someone else would have said, hey, you, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. But he had time to think of the situation he was in. And he looked at a person having a hard time.
Yeah.
Right. And he wasn't afraid of the person. You know, most people would run, right, if someone confronted you. And I think, you know, that's why these things are so important, is you can learn through someone else's story. You know, how many times you've been in a grocery store and someone doesn't have that dollar to buy that thing?
Yeah.
And half the people like, hurry up, hurry up. And there's always someone says, here's $2. I'll take it. Right? Move, let the guy have, or gal have her food. $1 to me is like nothing. But
I know it's, and even beyond the money, if a person is, you know, a mother or a father or a parent is experiencing like an awful event in the supermarket where their kid is having a meltdown, and the people that are walking by are judging and, you know, looking up and down and making you feel even worse about it. Well, how about asking if there's some way that you can help? Is there anything that you need help with? Do you want me to push your cart while you pick up your kid? Is there anything I can do for you? And just wrap your arms around the person in some way. You know, it's going to make you feel good. It's going to let them feel supported. It might give the child an opportunity to calm down. But trade judgment for curiosity, and, you know, start considering that everybody is doing the best they can with what they've got in the moment. That's fact. The guy with the trolley was having a bad day. It wasn't about the trolley. It wasn't about the trolley. It was something else that triggered him, and he shot it back at Mario, but Mario handled that beautifully. Here, take the trolley, have a good day. You know?
From that little incident, it now becomes a story that's on LinkedIn Live that's spreading everywhere. So even the gentleman who yelled at Mario has to take some responsibility for the benefit that comes out of it, right? And I think, to what Jenny's saying, is people are expressing themselves maybe not in the right manner, maybe not using the right words, maybe not directing it to right people, but they're just overwhelmed and they got to get it out, right? And what I learned, when someone's really bad to somebody for whatever period of time, 5-10 minutes, that person can walk away. The person who was bad to him lives with that anger, lives with that, you know, volcano that can go at any time. And, you know, and that's why it's so important to remember what you say matters. Words have to make a difference. Just your facial expression makes a difference when you meet somebody, right? You know, and, you know, now we're getting into, you know, Christy says that kindness and manners. Joshua's here, and kindness is human. You know, we forget too much about things that are so valuable, like kindness, like love, like generosity. And, you know, you almost have a responsibility, if you have been very lucky and successful and you enjoy a lot of happiness, to share it, right? I mean, it gets you better dividends than getting that extra little space in your house, or that piece of furniture that's replacing something was just fine, right?
Yeah.
And there's a difference between being what you need and then adding to it. Andrea said the universe presents us with situations where we're needed. We just need to see. And you know, there's value and beauty everywhere. Like I say, when I saw that speaker and he said, well, who's a millionaire here? And very few people put their hands up. And he said, well, how much are your eyes worth? Would you give me those for $1 million? Or your ears, or your legs? I mean, you're worth millions and millions that you take for granted every day, right? And the last thing he said, if you really are feeling sorry for yourself, he said, take the obituaries out and say, who wouldn't trade me right now?
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
Well,
that is so true.
Yeah.
What would you rather, this or that? And, you know, that's a great exercise in abundant thinking. In order to experience abundance, we have to notice it. So when you're feeling like you're not enough, or you don't have enough, or life is whatever, take a beat and notice everything that you do have. And by putting the focus on what you do have, you load up on that positive energy of feeling like, you know what, I'm okay for today. I have enough for today. I am loved. I am safe. I am fed. I can get outside. I can move. I have, you know, I can pay my bill, or whatever the case may be. I have enough for today.
Well, and enough for today takes care of today. And that's all you have to do, is take care of one day at a time. I'm so like you, Jenny, because when things were at some of the worst situations, I'd always come back to, I got a place to sleep tonight. I got a warm meal waiting for me. I got a loving family. Tomorrow could worry about itself.
Yeah.
Right? I'm set for today. And then a good night's sleep and some thought. The sting goes away over time. It's the shock. It's the surprise. And then, like we talked about a little earlier, the overreaction. You know, so many times I found myself in situations, and as I got older, it's like, you know, somebody died in my family that was really close to me. And I said to myself, you're not going to get over this in a week or a day. So give yourself the time, you know, and where's the fire to get over it? So when you get over it, where are you at? You just now dealt with it. And that's all it was a deal. You know, here's Alex. I believe in the universe, even I can't see the next step. Well, they say faith is the belief in the invisible,
How about, yeah, I love that, believe in the universe. How about believing in yourself first and foremost? How about that? How about you started speaking to yourself like you were your very best friend? And if a very best friend came to you and said, I just don't think I'm good enough, or I just don't think that this is possible for me, the likelihood is you would just invest so much of your belief in them. I believe you can do it. I think you're a great person. You're a wonderful friend. You're this, you're that, you're the other. How about holding a mirror up to that belief system and shine it right on yourself and use all of that energy to load up on that good feeling and ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do today that will move me closer to where I want to be?
That's so smart. And sometimes you got to believe in what people tell you is to be true, right? When people tell you you're good enough, and they believe it, you should believe it with them, and there's that saying, if I can't do it, could we do it? And being able to leverage people's help in a way that makes it beneficial for both parties. But at the end of the day, the human condition is so diverse. There's no absolutes. What works for one person may not work for another person. Sometimes people who are trying to help are in no position to help. They have no experience, and that can back somebody up, depending on who it is and the advice. This people are coming in fast and furious. Maria's here almost every day to play devil's advocate. Some would say hope is not a plan.
Oh, I agree, Maria. A dream without a plan, or a goal without a plan, is just a wish. It is just a wish. It's getting the right steps in the right order. But I just want to go back to something that you said a moment ago, Don, about, believe in what other people are telling you, like if they believe in you. Well, that in a way is seeking outward validation, and it's seeking permission to try something. The true belief and the true power comes from your personal belief system and your personal power, because it doesn't matter how many people on the outside tell you you can. If you don't believe it yourself, you're not going to follow through on it. And then guess what's going to happen? You get to play lots of people's favorite game, the blame game. Well, I tried this because you told me I could do it, and then it didn't work out, so now it's your fault, right? And like, we're all winning whatever game we're playing. So when it's the blame game, let's not make it the blame game. And I was guilty of this. Even like last week, I had a situation come up where I was second guessing myself with a client. And my old habit would have been to reach out to another coach and say, what do you think I should do? Or what do you think I should say? And I stopped myself, because that was the habit I applied to everything in my life. So I didn't come all this way on my personal development journey to then head back over to seeking outward validation. So I paused and I asked myself, what was the best course of action here? And I just followed through on it. Fall forward. It might not work out the way you hoped. It might work out even better. But believe in yourself first. That belief system has to start with it within.
Oh, for sure. And the key is what you're hoping for is sustainability, right? Because people are going to keep moving back and forth depending on their life situation. There's going to be times of real happiness, times of sadness. And, if every time you can identify where you're at, and we talked about it earlier, and where did this come from? Right? And the other thing I think Jenny makes a really quality point is, you talk to yourself at times in ways you would never talk to even a stranger, right?
Self-talk, yeah.
You belittle yourself, you minimize yourself. I mean, you are the one who gives the awards out every day to yourself, right? What did you want to recognize about yourself? What did you do good today? I mean, if you're not going to bring balance into it, you're treating yourself unfairly, right? If you did a couple bad things, or whatever bad means, or good, because that's judgment to begin with. And I think what is so important is to be forgiving of yourself, but also take responsibility and accountability for yourself, right? You can say, I just made a big mistake. And then you could say, well, don't do it again or learn from it, but don't let it stop you from your next thing that you're about to do.
Well, it's what's really powerful in that moment when something doesn't go the way you hoped or you reacted in a way that you wished you hadn't. Trade judgment for curiosity there and gently ask yourself, oh my gosh, is that how I wanted to show up? If I could go back and have a redo, what might I have done differently? And it's so much gentler than saying, oh, I should have done this, or I could have done that, or why did I do this, or whatever. It's so much gentler by trading judgment for curiosity and replaying the event with a different reaction or response, showing up differently, even in your head. You're reminding yourself of, oh yeah, you know what? I'm trying to create a new habit. I'm trying to form new behaviors going forward. This is what I will endeavor to do next time.
Yeah. And, again, when you trade frustration with the word fascination, things get better, right? When someone does something to you and it frustrates you, if you exchange that for fascination, like, boy, how does someone even think of doing that, let alone do it? And all of a sudden, you're not part of it. You're kind of not engaging with that person at that level. Because if someone told you today is Monday, no matter how forcefully they told you, you'd never believe them, right? I mean, and it doesn't matter. And so it's not the words. And that's why I always ask people, you don't have to take anything the way it's given. You can always ask why. Confront somebody if something bothers you. Say, why did you say something? What was your intention? No one.
That's even more powerful.
Yeah.
What was your intention about speaking in a certain way, or what's important about that to you? And you're getting off of your map and onto theirs through curiosity.
Well, and you're doing great, and because you're involving yourself with them, you're not just accepting them, right? And everybody knows the words that were said. There's a saying, you can't unring a bell. It's said, it's like trying to put toothpaste back in the tube. But what you can do is say, I know what you said. Why did you say that? Or what were you intending me to come away with that? And so I just have better understanding, right? Because once you accept what they say, you accepted it, right? You don't have to accept something. If someone gives you something that's not healthy for you, you don't have to take it.
You don't. One of my favorite questions. And, what we're doing is we're giving someone a safe place to share and a soft place to land. So if somebody says something that is hurtful, you're allowed to ask, what exactly do you mean by that? And it gives this person a moment of realization. What I just said, what did I mean by that? Oh gosh. That's not what I didn't mean it this way. Well, what did you mean? What was your intention? What was your intention for that? And it just allows for that transaction to be a little more peaceful. It doesn't excuse the behavior, but when you can hit the pause button and ask the person out of curiosity, what exactly did you mean by that? What's important to you about that? What was your intention for saying this to me? In what way did you think this would be helpful? And the person might be like, I didn't think it was going to be helpful. I was just being mean. I'm so sorry.
Usually what comes out of it is some people don't realize what they just said and what it's going to mean. It just came through. And by bringing that to someone's attention, first of all, you show I'm not affected by it. At this point, I'm just curious about it. So in other words, you didn't hurt me. You didn't make me do things I wouldn't have done or said something, but it gives that person a chance to think, but also a chance to apologize.
Yeah.
Right. And say, you're so right. I got off the deep end. And you know what they'll say? Just like the guy who got the hug, something just happened this morning and it just made me a little different. And I'm showing it. And thanks for sharing that, because I wasn't as aware of what I was doing. and what it was meaning, even if I knew what it was doing, or hey, if you felt that way, that wasn't my intent. And some people say, I'm just trying to be funny, or,
Yeah.
I just wasn't thinking. And okay, well, at least it says you learned. Maybe you can't change what just took place with me, but maybe you can avoid doing that with the next person, or, there's a saying, measure twice, cut once,
Yeah.
right? Think a little bit more before doing. Maria says, well, first we'll go with the LinkedIn user. Christy, I never knew FLY is first love yourself. Now I know, thanks to Christy. Well, and Christy's getting validation, confirmation, compliments by helping others.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's a demonstration that the more you give, the more you get, and givers get more because they're starting things. They're not waiting for things, right? Maria's is why is it so easy to cheer someone else and yet we often talk like crap to ourselves? That's a very good question.
It is a great question. And Maria, notice how you talk to yourself in the mirror sometimes. Like I do this exercise with my clients a lot. Are you using the mirror as another tool to criticize yourself? Or do you ever take a moment and look in the mirror and go, you know what, here I am again today. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Or great, I'm alive. Or gosh, my hair worked out today. Or whatever the case may be, just speak to yourself like you're your very best friend and notice how it makes you feel.
You're so right, because what's wrong with saying when you wake up, I am so proud of who I am. I'm so happy to have another day to be with my wonderful family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's someone who once told me their biggest nightmare was laying on their deathbed with all their family and friends all around them. And the only thought they could have is, what could I have done not to be here right now?
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. I mean, and sometimes it's sadly out of our control, right? Sometimes.
Sure. But it's just that there's so many people who love you, care about you, and need you that you take for granted at times, because sometimes you're so much into whatever you're into,
yeah,
that it overshadows that. Andrea says, we all fail at times. We're only humans. Except be the best friend you could possibly be. When we say you talk to yourself worse than you talk to even strangers, well, why not go the other way?
mm-hmm.
Maybe do more for yourself. And here's the thing. Being happy takes a lot of hard work, right? And you have to make time for yourself to be happy. What are the favorite things you like every day in your life? Your cup of coffee, your music, your exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So carve out that, hey, this is primary. I need to take care of myself. I love to walk in a park. I love to listen to music. Well, if those are things you love, why wouldn't you prioritize that? If you had a guest come to your house, right? First thing you would say is, what can I get you from the grocery store? Is there any special situation I can make your stay here better? Well, you're a guest in your own house every day. And at the end of the day, I'll tell you one thing for sure. No matter who you're with, you come home to yourself at night.
Wherever you go, there you are.
And I think that's it's real, right?
Yeah.
Notice they would see the most critics are doing absolutely nothing except mouthing off at other folks. And I tell you all the time, you've never seen a statue for a critic, right? You've seen statues for great people, great things, but never a critic. They get forgotten because there's so many of them. And you know what I tell everybody? Unless someone's doing what you're doing and trying like you're trying, they got nothing to say about it, right? Unless they're doing it themselves or have done it and they understand what it is. And the thing is they're a different person from a different place. It's not a connection. It's just like looking at a blur as you're driving down the road. It shouldn't even get any of your attention. Here we go. I know it's right. Grace, I haven't seen you, Grace. Thank you for coming. It's always nice to see new faces. Christine's here. Now that Christine's here, we're going to have some real benefit as far as her insights. She's just a wonderful lady. She's going for an MBA. She's got 3 kids, got a full-time job, keeping a house down. And last night I had an argument with my husband. It takes 2 people to argue anyways. I felt he was out of line, he said, but my reaction was explosive. I apologized for how I responded, and we talked about what he said, and he was sorry too. And the sooner you get over something that you're going to have to get over, because what I learned, and I'm going on 45 years of being married to the same wonderful girl, is 2 things. A yes will always get you a yes in return down the road, and a no will always get you a no. So if someone says, I want this, I need this, 98% of the time, I got an opinion about something, but it's like tomato. It really doesn't mean that much. And the other thing is, sometimes you're talking to someone like your spouse, and you can fast forward and you know where this is all going to lead. You've had these conversations before, and if you could get away from where it's going, right, and work on it, you can move forward. So I think the key is not how many times you fall down, it's how fast you can get up. Falling down isn't something you can always control. Jenny?
Or hit the pause button. It's like, we don't graduate from being a human being, and we get annoyed with people in our environment. It's just how it goes sometimes. Behaviors get under our skin because we didn't sleep well, or you're fed up picking up somebody else's socks, or in my case, somebody doesn't want to put a dish in the sink or the dishwasher. They rather rest it on the side, which drives me crazy. But on the good days, if I can hit the pause button, even though I'm frustrated, on the good days, I might say, what might be the next step with this dish? And my son would be like, I could have put it in the dishwasher. That's a great idea. Versus, would you put your dish in the dishwasher? You're driving me crazy. And then they get all defensive. And I know that's like a really basic thing. But this is what happens. Things aren't perfect all of the time. And sometimes we're irritated. But if you can hit that pause button and ask yourself, how do I want to show up here? Am I looking to build connection or break connection? Because that's what communication is. Whenever you're about to say something, text something, email something, whatever the case may be, ask yourself that question. Is this reaction going to build connection or break connection? What am I going for here?
Yeah, and you're right. Just like a car, you got a neutral and you got a reverse, right? So you could pause and idle for a while and think, or you can back out and try a new direction. The key is there's too much activity, not enough review or reflection. Too many people are busy doing. Andrea's leaving. Great conversation. Sorry, I need to leave. And, I try to close this out before the top of the hour because I know it's a weekday and people have next things to do. So if you have any final comments, many people mistake wish for hope. To me, hope is expecting what you desire to come to pass, no matter the difficulty. But wish is like it may or may not happen. Well, semantics are so important, and words can be interpreted in many different ways. So I think that what works for you, what words work for you, is what you should continue to use. And again, to Jenny's point, what everybody else thinks doesn't necessarily have to be what you think. Christine, or say hello, beautiful spark of the universe. Anything that gets you away from where you don't want to be is a good thing, right? And if it's looking at a bird, looking at a flower, eating something really that you love, just to get you off of where you're at enough to make you move.
Or a random act of kindness, Christine. Say hello, it's a beautiful spark of the universe, right? A random act of kindness. And people think this is very cheesy, but there is such a feel-good factor to doing something that, doing something positive or with love without any expectation of reciprocity. You just give because you can and you feel it in the moment. The cup of coffee for the person in the car behind you. Now, that bit me one day when I thought this would be a really good idea. And I said, I want to treat the person behind me to their coffee. I was in Dunkin' Donuts, and she goes, oh, they have a really big order. It's $35. And then I felt like a jerk if I didn't pay for it. So I just paid for it. But I was like, of course it wasn't like a large refresher or a cup of coffee or whatever. Of course it had to be a big thing. But you know what? It made a difference to their day. And it certainly made a difference to mine too. And it's just something small. And I'll, before we jump off, Dan, I had a really funny experience. I know I don't sound like everybody over here, but there was an elderly couple at the grocery store last week, and I saw them struggling with their cart to their car. And I thought, maybe I'll help and I'll take their cart back for them. But I never felt more like a criminal than in that moment when I asked the lady, would you like me to take your cart for you? And she suddenly was like, what's your intention here? And I said, oh, I just thought, I'd save you the trip back. And her husband goes, well, yeah, I guess it'd be okay. But they were totally looking at me out of the side of their eyes. And she said, okay, well, thanks. And I said, do you want me to help you lift your groceries? And she's like, no, we got that. And I thought, okay, like the one simple gesture was good enough, but it made me laugh. She wasn't expecting somebody to help her out. Now, at the end of it, we ended up having a great interaction and a fun exchange, and they felt good that they could just get in their car and go on their way. But I thought, man, that was funny. I was just trying to do something nice, but I think they thought I was about to mug them.
Yeah, but that just shows you how conditioned people are to even kindness. They question it.
Yeah. What's your intention? I just was going to save you the trip back with your cart. That was my intention.
And that would be the obvious for most people. But there's a saying: some will, some won't. So what?
Oh, I love that.
It's just the way it is. And don't expect everybody either way.
Yeah.
And again, that's where the platinum rule comes in. Is most people follow, if they can, the golden rule, which is do unto others as you want done unto yourself. The platinum rule is do unto others as they want done unto themselves, right? So you may like a certain ice cream. Not everybody does. Why not find out first? And that's why asking is so important. Knocking is so important for doors to open. I just have to say, I could listen to Jenny all day. I love her accent and pleasant voice. Well, I don't know who doesn't. So.
My family would not agree, Christine, but I appreciate you.
And Jenny's been here for quite a while and continues to grow and blossom along with all of us. So it's so great to see people evolve together and find places that allow them to be more of what they want to be and who they are. And it's just being accepted. Everybody just wants to be part of something and to also contribute if given the right opportunity. And there's so much potential. There's so much greatness in everybody. And there's so many times you were a success in your own eyes. You were on the stage and people applauded and brought you forward. And those are the things people should bring to the forefront, not the shame, the embarrassment, the guilt that people pile up. So anyways, we could talk forever. Me and Jenny have that knack. So with that said, I want to thank everybody. I hope you take whatever you've learned here, and I hope it was a lot, or the people you met, because this is an hour to invest in yourself, come away with takeaways, things you can actually take actionable steps with. Ivan says, thank you for the unconditional. I have a big meeting with my boss today, taking all the positives from this morning. Well, anything we can all do to help each other out is a feather in all of our caps. And share this tomorrow or the next day. Love to hear the results. That's where the fun really comes is I did this for the first time ever, and I was so surprised. I was so excited. It spreads. So Jenny, final words?
When you look in the mirror, see beauty first.
Well, on that note, I'm not even going to say anything more, but thank you for coming. Look forward to 11 a.m. every day. There's going to be more and more inspirational and entertainment in a good way. So I can't thank you all enough. You're making my dreams come true, and I can't wait to help everybody else make their dreams come true. So talk too much. Talk to you later.